Good Thursday evening, friends. I'm Joe Gillaway, and along with my partner, Bill Bostic, we welcome you to This and That, the podcast. Bill, how
Yeah,
are you?
I'm doing fine. Very busy week, but I am still standing and I can't complain.
Now, let me jump into who our guest is tonight. I think last week
Okay.
I waited way too long, and it's Hawaiian Chris James. Okay,
Yeah, we've been
and
waiting for him.
I'm
Uh,
excited. This guy's he's
yeah,
been around for a long time. He's South Central Pennsylvanian to the bone, maybe even let's call it Central PA to the bone, because he's a radio DJ slash personality. And
right.
man, he's done it. He's done it for a long, long time. He's met a lot of cool people, talented people. So, and he's a nice guy. He's a really nice guy. So, our first segment, or this, I guess, is our first segment. So, but he's our
Yeah.
first guest, and then we're going to talk about fireworks,
Oh yeah.
Coons, Coons Park fireworks, and fireworks in Lower Paxton Township in general. The ones that people just kind of
Oh yeah.
get like bombs, and they light
Yeah.
off bombs in your backyard and stuff like that. So, anyway, Bill, this is the People's Podcast. You do know that, right?
I do. And we're the official location where the township supervisors are going to debate, and I have an update for you on
Okay,
that.
well we'll get to that here. Go ahead, give
All
me the
right.
update. No, I
The
want to know
update
the
is I was in touch with one of the Democratic candidates,
okay.
and they said that when they talked to you, there have been some wires crossed, but we should be able to work out that everyone's going to be on this official site for debate on the
Okay.
supervisor's race. So I think we're going to be able to work it out.
What about before that? Just coming on, talking about their platform and talking about the changes that
Well,
they.
I didn't. This was a text message type scenario, so we'll have to just to work with them and see where that's at. But
Okay,
I don't think it's going to be a blank where we don't have any Democrats on here. Let's put it that way.
we want to show these candidates in a positive light. You know,
Sure.
if anybody that's watching knows us by now, you realize that we're not here trying to slam people and set them up and ask them. You know, well, we want to ask
Yeah.
tough questions, but anyway, what episode is this, Bill?
I think it's 14.
Yes, very good. Episode 14. And our sponsors, I was toying around. Look at this. Look what I figured out how to do. Look at
Oh
this.
my.
This and
Beautiful.
That, the podcast, is sponsored by American Legion Post 272, Be a Hero, Hire a Hero, Rickaba's Electric, and Team PA AAU Basketball. Thank you once again to those great local businesses. And the Legion's not a business, I guess, in a sense, but it's an organization. But thanks to all these local businesses and organizations for their continued support of our podcast. We really appreciate it. And or how about the disclaimer, Bill? The views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the participants who voice them. I don't think Hawaiian Chris James is going to say anything that's going to cause us to call the attorneys, but they do not necessarily reflect the positions held by This and That, the podcast, as an entity, Bill or myself, or the sponsors who support the show. And I'm just going to go quickly through our upcoming. We have a lot of shows scheduled, and in order we have that's Dr. Tamara Willis. She's the Susquehanna Township School District Superintendent. They're trying to get a new elementary school built. It's a big deal there. It's a referendum on the upcoming ballot in November to try to generate the money via tax dollars. So that should be interesting, Bill. We have that's on the
Oh, yeah.
17th, which is next week. And then we
Right.
have Julie Walker and a friend of hers from the Peyton Walker Foundation. And they do important stuff, Bill. They help people identify if they have any problems with. And I don't want to get into it too much because I don't really understand the ins and outs of it. It has to do with people's heart and that their heart is unhealthy. And these, she tries to help people find out the warning signs. And, your body might send you signals that you're not understanding or you're not. And then that's an AED machine that she's
Right.
displaying there. And then we have our first You Do What segment. And we're going to interview a local couple who they grow microgreens in their basement, man. They're like suburban farmers, indoor
And
suburban farmers. And
They
this is
do
what
this
you
for a
do. What
living?
is all? Yes, yes. And
Okay,
this is
wow.
what you do. What is all about? It's about people that have odd ways of paying their bills. And if anybody's watching and you want to come on, it's got to be pretty odd, though. We want some really kind of bizarre ways of we're trying to get the ice cream man on.
Yeah.
Um,
What's his
Sean,
name?
it's Sean
Sean.
Straining.
Okay.
He's also a clown, an actual clown, and he's an ice cream man. So he would qualify for sure. And then the last one, I just booked this, I guess this morning, or I don't know, in the last 24 hours. We are going to have a show on the borough of Steelton. They're struggling down there with some things. There's a lot of crime. The schools aren't doing well, and it just there's some issues that they're going to have to address, that they're going to have to deal with. And we got an all-star lineup coming in from the borough office. We have the mayor joining us. We have the police chief and 3 council members.
That's a good
So
good lineup, Joe.
that's a good get, they call that, Bill, in the business.
Hey,
That's a
now on
good
a little
get.
bit different direction, can I share something that I think I want to try and do with you sometime in the near
Uh-oh.
future?
Should
You
we
like
be
to do
sharing this on the air here?
yes, no
I'm
problem.
kind of nervous
You
now.
you,
Yeah, go
you
ahead.
like to go walking,
Yeah, I
right?
like to walk, walking,
You
hiking.
like
Yeah,
to go out in the semi wilderness of the Harrisburg area. I won't
sometimes.
identify where you
Yep.
go, but did you know those? If you look at the Susquehanna River in the city of Harrisburg, there on Front Street, you ever notice those islands
I
that are
have.
out there?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, those
I've been
those are
out there.
actually.
Out
You've
there
been
before.
out there
Yes, I
because
have.
I want to explore some of those islands.
We
You
went
take
there when we were younger, much younger, and we took a little motor boat out, and we um, drank alcohol and smoked weed. And kind of camped
I
out.
don't want to do that.
I don't know if we ever stayed overnight. I think we planned to, and we weren't really tough enough to do that. So we got back in the boat and went back to our car. But I know we did some partying over there. So
I think that would be different. I mean, I'm sort of interested in that.
hey,
Explore.
before I ask you about edgy local news,
Yes.
I'm gonna ask you a trivia question. I'm gonna see if you were paying attention Tuesday night at the Board of
Okay.
Supervisors meeting,
All
and
right.
anybody else that is watching, which is I think one person right now. Uh, we
Thank
have
you. Thank you,
yeah.
whoever you are.
What's different or cool about this show though? This could turn into hundreds of. We've got well over 2,000 for our one show, but there wasn't many people watching it at the
Yeah.
time. So they can watch it later tonight, tomorrow, next week. It's going to be archived forever. So okay, what are the number of intersections in Lower Paxton Township equipped with traffic signals, Bill?
I think the number is 48.
Yes, it is. Golf
Yeah.
clap for Bill Bostic. Very good. Very good, Bill. So you were paying attention, right?
I was. Hey, I caught on video. I watched some of the meeting. There were some people, Joe, who weren't listening during that meeting. I'm speaking, right? And I look in the background. There's people walking around sharing
That's
notes
not
and
good.
things.
They should get disciplined for that, Bill.
Demerits.
Demerits. I had people behind me talking, talking in
Geez.
class,
Yeah.
which I never had a problem with when I was in class, like when I was a student, because I talked in class. But now that I'm an adult and approaching 60, I don't like when people talk in class, Bill.
I think I might have to run a seminar on meeting etiquette. It'll be a
Yeah,
it'll be a
people
sellout.
are gonna
It'll be a
love you for
sellout.
that. That's gonna be a sell nothing. Okay,
Yeah,
well,
that's good.
real quick before we bring Hawaiian Chris James in, talk about edgy news, man. What's edgy news? This is all
Edgy
new to
news.
me.
Edgy news is simply not conforming to the regular way you do things. For example, when I'm in reporting mode in public, I'm going to be wearing a fedora hat, sort of like an old style hat that reporters used to wear. So if people see me in the public and I have my fedora hat, they're more than welcome to approach me and we can talk about whatever.
They're going to say
gonna
that guy has to be a journalist over there, a reporter.
Exactly.
He has
Exactly.
to be.
And
Is there going to be a feather in the band?
No. I talked
Okay.
with another journalist and said nothing like that. That would cross the line, having anything like that. So, and then if you watch some of the stuff with the language I use, I'll say, like, for example, get your butts out of your chair and go down to St. Thomas Roasters for music. I'll
Oh no,
write things like that.
that's
That's
edgy.
edgy,
That's
very edgy.
edgy. Okay. Oh my goodness.
Basically, I want to get people to think, what is going on here? So that's what's
Yeah.
happening.
Okay, so listen, I think we nailed it. It's 10 minutes after 7, and I
Okay.
think we
Let's
do
bring him
try to
on.
do 10 minutes. So let's bring him in. There he is, Hawaiian
Oh,
Chris James.
look at the shirt. Oh my gosh.
Hawaiian Chris James. I have one really nice Hawaiian shirt, and I can't find it. I'm sorry. I did care enough to think about wearing one, but I don't have one.
My other half will tell you I have too many of them.
Okay. So, well, you know what? Welcome, first of all.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Let's start with that. Why Hawaiian Chris James? I was going to ask you that like into the show, but why? How did you get Hawaiian?
A lot of people ask me that, and I always tell them that I used to get laid a lot. But the actual answer is years and years and years and years and years ago, Bruce Springsteen put out a live box set album, a live album. And it was in December, and by chance, it snowed really hard that day, and I wore a Hawaiian shirt to work just to be funny, because it was snowing outside and people couldn't get to work. And when I got in there, lo and behold, one of the television stations came over to film the fact that Bruce Springsteen was putting out this monumental album. And back then it was an album, it was a vinyl. Right. And I happened to be on the air doing middays at the time on WTPA, and they filmed me putting it on the air. And they asked the program director at the time, well, who is that? So we could put his name underneath his head. And since I was being a smart aleck, he was too. He goes, that's Hawaiian Chris James. So,
wow.
Him? So they put that on TV under my head. So it stuck.
That's awesome. I like that a lot. Okay.
That's a good story.
There we have it. And I asked you this last week, and then we had to kind of break up the show. Would you call yourself at this stage of the game? You're in your 41st year. Are you a DJ or a radio host, a personality?
You can call me whatever you want.
I think you're a personality. I think you have surpassed DJ. Okay.
I appreciate it. Well, since the real term disc jockey went because they used to play records,
right?
That doesn't happen anymore. I've lived through records. I've lived through CDs and cart machines, and now it's all done on a hard drive. So it's
right.
I think it's just go in and have fun on the radio, guy.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's and you know what? That really conveys well. That I think people have fun when you're having fun. In anything, really,
Hopefully.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you one more question. Then, Bill, I know you have some questions. Did you always want to be in radio? Talk a little bit about your upbringing. I don't need to know all the gritty details, but
right.
Did you kind of practice in your bedroom and all that stuff when you were a kid?
Funny you should say that. Not the bedroom. I thought I wanted to be a journalist, then I wanted to be a sportscaster. I really, really wanted to be a sportscaster. But my dad will tell you, remember the Columbia House Record Club, whatever it was called?
Yeah, 13 for a penny, I think.
I was doing that constantly. And my dad would tell me, what are you doing with all these records? And I would sit in my room and I would play all the records. And I would ride around at night in my dad's car with my friends. And I would practice being the DJ. I mean, it was just one of those things. And when I went to college, I was on the TV doing sports and I was on the radio. I have a face for radio, so the TV part didn't work. And
I've seen much worse. I've seen much worse.
I actually didn't make it as a DJ the first time I tried out. They made me be a newscaster and a sportscaster. And I actually traveled with the basketball and football team my junior and senior year doing play-by-play. But the music was just so much better. I can dress like this to go to work. I don't have to wear a tie.
Right.
And I had a friend that owned a radio station when I was doing junior achievement in Reading. He owned a station, 93.5. And I would bug him literally every week. Can you give me a break? Can you give me a break? And he gave me a break. And like they say, the rest is history.
Did that start like with a middle of the night shift?
Yes. That shift doesn't exist on any radio station anymore, but I work midnight to 6.
Right. Yeah, we're going to bring in a bunch of the KBO guys here upcoming. That's going to be I think a cool show. But I know that they kind of had all the shifts covered back then. And there was, back then you had a 11 to 3 or something like that. I think the nighttime guy might have been done at 11, something like that. And
I worked midnight to 6 overnight.
Wow. That's a long shift in radio, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Especially overnights when you're not used to being awake overnights. There was one time at Christmas where I laid down when I put the one Christmas song on, and I woke up 40 minutes later to, oh my God.
But they brought you back, right?
Yeah, I got yelled at by the morning guy that first shift and said, "You're supposed to have the coffee waiting for us when we get here." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
How can I have the coffee ready when I'm sound asleep, guys?
Yeah, so I've seen a lot of weird stuff.
I'll bet you have. Bill, you want to jump in, buddy?
Well, I tell you what, Chris, the thing I'm most impressed with is that microphone. My God, I haven't seen any of our guests have anything quite like that.
I told him that the other night. I said, look at that microphone.
This was during COVID. We had to broadcast from home. None of us were allowed to go in. So after COVID was over and we all went back, we all kept our remote equipment here just in case we ever needed it. So yeah, this is not mine. Trust me, I wouldn't be able to have this.
Looks pretty pricey.
I'm guessing it is.
Yeah. Bill, I have to get one of those. I don't care if it's not even real. It could be empty. It could just be like a plastic shell and just sit it right up next to my face.
That's the problem with using your laptop, you know. Chris, where did you get your start in the Harrisburg area? What station?
Believe it or not, I've only worked at 2 stations in all the time I've been up here. I got my start. 93.5 was known as WKCD when I first started in July 4th of '84. And but in September, they switched it to all hit 93.5 WKCD. And then in that January after, they flipped it to WTPA rock and roll.
Well, happy anniversary. You just had your 41st in radio.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that.
Yeah.
It's a long time. You don't look old enough to have been doing one thing for 41 years. Seriously, I mean that.
But I worked at TPA for, 27 years. And then when the Cumulus bought the Citadel stations, they asked me to stay on at 105.7, and I flipped to there. It's ironic. I'm in the same studio and I'm in the same office at work. It just flipped frequencies and flipped call letters.
Isn't that something?
But Chris, where was the WTPA studio located?
Those people that remember, there was something called Salmons Communications a long time ago. Salmons had an office in Mechanicsburg, and it was in the alley off Main Street. Our offices were on Main Street, but I was in a trailer in the alleyway behind.
You know what?
That's how you rated, huh?
I actually worked there.
That lived under there too. Well, let me tell you how much fun it was working overnight with a skunk living under you.
Chris, I worked at that station for all of 1 month in the sales department, and then so I won't tell you the story. It was a sad story, but I only lasted a month.
It was sad.
But it is sad. I'm not going to bore you with it. Maybe off on the side, not on the air. I'll tell you.
Well, we're still looking for salespeople now. So if you're looking for an extra side gig,
no. That's the hardest job.
They won't let them wear a fedora to that.
Oh yeah, they will.
Will they?
Oh yeah.
So you've had a lot of co-hosts over the years. Usually in radio, typically I think it's two men, 2 women, or a man and a woman. A lot of times. Talk about some of your co-hosts that you've had in the last 41 years.
I right now, he's more or less like a co-host, John Wilsbach, who does traffic for us. I have on, and we just mesh well together.
Man, he's good, isn't he?
Yeah,
good?
He is, and he's like my yang. We're like yin and yang. We get along so great together, but we're kind of different at the same time, so it works. The first co-host I had, I've done mornings twice. And I did mornings with Amy Warner at one point, and I did mornings with a girl named Brianna at one point as well. Neither one of them in radio anymore, and I went back to afternoons. I just doing fill-in mornings until they found somebody, basically.
Which shift do you like the best?
Afternoons. I
feel like you're in your wheelhouse, like in the afternoon.
Yeah, I've done it for so long, and I'll be honest. The last time I worked mornings, I had like a calendar counting down the days so I could stop working mornings. Because when you work mornings in the wintertime and you get up at 3:00 in the morning and it's the coldest part of the day and you go out to your car and it's tough. And everybody else has like a regular life and you don't.
The life of a radio host, huh?
Trust me, afternoons is so nice.
Right.
Yeah.
Bill?
I'm going to go down your list because I'm not. I didn't prepare a list of things.
I have a really good question. I was going to
Okay.
kind of
All right.
sandbag this one, but I think one of the cool things, and you and I are probably around the same age. So I was, when you were getting started, I was listening, and I was in my 20s, back then, and I used to think, man, the people that these guys and gals meet. I mean, you do, and
Yeah.
it's you're introducing. You're the MC for concerts. You're
Yeah.
standing out in front of sometimes 30,000 or so at Hershey
Yeah.
Park, a packed Hershey Park. They're coming into the studio sometime, right?
Yep, that's true.
The acts, the musicians. Um, Boy, this is such a tough question. And talk about some of the I guess the musicians that you enjoyed the most, or you thought it was really cool. I'm sure you still think it's cool, even though you've been there and done that for all these decades.
It's you still get a little butterfly before you go out on the stage to do something like that. But I mean, I hate, because I don't want to be the guy that name drops all the time, because I don't like to do that. But the most the coolest one I ever did, if you remember the Steel Wheels tour, the Stones did it. It was down
Absolutely.
in Philadelphia, down in Philadelphia, and I got a chance to go down. And they said you're allowed to bring one person with you, but they can't come backstage for the meet and greet. I'm like, okay. So my brother came with me, and I said, I'm sorry, but I have to leave you out here. So they took the couple of the radio people that were back there, and we went back in, and the Rolling Stones were probably one of the nicest people that I've ever met backstage. Mick opens the door, says, "Come on in. We have all this food." And Charlie Watts is sitting on this really cool couch, and you sit down next to him, and he's sitting there talking to you like you're just. It was, to me, and that was when I was more or less starting out. I was flabbergasted that someone to that degree was so nice. Alice Cooper, probably one of the nicest guys.
I could imagine so with Alice. Yeah.
Bon Jovi, the same way. I mean, there's a handful of people that were not so nice, but
that's on my list to ask, but I'm not going to ask it. If you want to offer up a name or two.
I will tell you one of them. It's a sister group from the 70s and 80s that you might remember. That let's put it this way, they had a lot of heart.
Yeah. Okay.
They played Hershey, and they were not so nice when we took listeners back there, and I was like, "What?
Okay.
What?"
That's one of my favorite bands too. If you're talking about who I think it might be,
but
it's not LaBelle. I know that.
No, but it was. There are 90% of the people are really nice.
Right.
You get your share of people. I'll say this to everybody too. One of the worst experiences was when we went down to see Journey in Philadelphia, and back then the meet and greets were after the show, so I had a 2-hour drive ahead of me. Show gets over at 11 o'clock. They usher all these people downstairs to where you're going to do the meet and greet, and we're waiting, and the rest of the band comes in, and we're waiting. An hour and 15 minutes later, here comes Steve Perry with his throat wrapped in like a hotel towel, and we're like, "What the heck? Why did it take so long?" He had to have a shower and a massage on his neck before he was going to come in to meet.
Oh my!
We're all there, and I'm like, so I'm happy that they don't do them then anymore, and I don't hang around anymore if it's a
right
show. I just go home. I'm like, it's like you said. Hey, you hate to sound jaded, but it's okay anymore.
Right?
It is.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris, did you ever meet Peter Frampton?
Yes.
What was he like? Because he's one of my favorites.
He's a very down homey type guy. He's very nice as well. I mean, he's one of those guys. I think the guys that were huge, and then are, you hate to say, on their way back down, but not as huge anymore, really appreciate. They're the ones that they get it. They get what it's like, and he was just super nice.
Well, he could never be as huge as he was for those first couple years. I mean, that was ridiculous.
The live album.
Oh, yeah.
I saw him at Hershey Theater a number of years ago, and it was at that concert that I realized I was getting older, because everyone in the theater had gray hair.
Yes, that's when you see bands like that and go, "Oh my God, how come all these old people are here?"
Exactly.
I bet you he still puts on a good show. He
He
seems like
does.
the
He
kind of guy
does. He does.
that really
He
cares
does.
about his fans. And
I mean,
Yep.
as far as guitar players, I mean, is he technically a good guitar player? I think
Yes.
he is, but
Yes, he
okay.
definitely is. I mean, there's a couple people like that. A lot of people don't give credit to that are just amazing on the guitar.
Okay.
yeah, I had a brush with I don't want to call it a brush with fame, but I lived and worked in Wildwood, New Jersey for
Ah,
one summer. Okay, I was like 28 years old, so this is a long time ago. And our hostess there, really nice woman, her husband was a U. He was the local rock radio DJ, right? And Aerosmith was touring with Four Non Blondes. Okay, and she said, "Joe, do you want to go with me to the show?" It was at the Spectrum, you know.
yep.
Would you like to go with me to the show? And you can whatever I do, you can do with me, which will be backstage. And so that was really cool. And they were nice, you know. Aerosmith and Four Non Blondes.
Yep.
They were very nice, very cool. And then my other one was I have a good friend of mine. His cousin's name is Steve Marker. I don't know if you know who he is. He's
No.
Garbage. That's his band.
Oh, okay.
Garbage. Yeah. So they were
Nice thing.
opening. They were opening for Smashing Pumpkins, and he was allowed to bring a friend, and so I got to hang. Now that was a little different. Smashing Pumpkins they were very kind of new on the scene, and they weren't looking to hang out much. You know what I mean? But it was like a couple days before their keyboardist who OD'd. One of the Pumpkins musicians overdosed, like up in Madison, up in New York City, like right
Yeah.
after that. So
Yep.
anyway, and I've had that's my two right there.
Do you want to hear mine?
Go for it.
My brush with fame. Dude, what was the name of the disco club at the Strawberry Square? That was on the
Oh my
second
God.
floor.
The VIP.
VIP.
VIP, yeah. VIP. I met. I couldn't believe it. Tiny Tim. That's who I had my brush with. Tiny
boy.
Tim. He was
Okay.
there.
Was he? He wasn't there playing, was he? Was he just there to
He
dance?
was.
was he
He was
doing?
there. Chris, I think he was there existing. That's what he was. He was just existing.
Oh my God.
Was he kind of a big dude?
He was tall and skinny and sort of bent over type of guy. I mean, and
A bent over type of guy.
like me, like I'm bent over.
Oh man, let's get back on track here, Bill. Listen, I got Aerosmith, Smashing Pumpkins, Four Non Blonde. Chris has 4 decades, and you come in with Tiny Tim.
What can I tell you?
All right. So,
That's all I can give you, man.
That's
That's
good.
awesome.
No, I mean, I didn't meet Tiny Tim. I don't think Chris did either.
No, I haven't. No, I haven't.
You got his beat there.
Never will now.
Favorite aspect of your job? What do you like most about it?
I'm the program director, so there's a lot of corporate crap and a lot of But one of the things that I love to do is I'm the guy that gets to put the music blocks together to put them on the air, and it's been kind of fun over the last how many years getting together. You know what new songs are going to play, the mix of the old songs. But
Right.
by far, when you ask about what my favorite shift I ever did, one of the reasons afternoons is so good is because that's the end of the day for me, and all the crap that goes on before. I have so much fun when I go in and I finally just get to go on the radio and just go have fun. Every
Right.
day it's something different. Every day you have different things to say. You never know what's going to happen. A lot of times it's off the seat of your pants. But at the end of the day, it's still just being on the air and just having fun.
He hasn't gotten old, right?
No, and somebody said, when would you ever hang it up? And I'm like, whenever it stops being fun, and it's still. I look forward to getting on the air and having fun with John. I really do.
So, back when I was younger, when we were all younger, you had people calling in. Do you still take calls ever?
We do, but obviously we tape a lot of the stuff, so it's almost impossible to take calls. But with the new technology comes a new way of doing that as well, and we have an app that people record a message, and it drops it right into your email. So between email itself and then just with the app, it's more right away, or Facebook messaging. I hear from people as I'm on the air all the time. They'll give me traffic updates to give to John, or it's so much easier than answering the phone. I mean, it's just right there and it drops right to you while you're standing there.
But no requests, right?
You can make requests. I will be perfectly honest. 90% of the songs that people request are coming up anyway.
Okay.
Everybody knows the old DJ line. Yeah, I'll try and get that on for you. But I mean, there's some people that try and come up with the most ridiculous song in the world, and they know you're not going to play that. I mean, come on.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I think I was in 6th grade, maybe 11 or 12 years old. A friend of mine, his dad knew Big Jim Roberts from WKBO, and he let us come in one night and sit in the studio. It was all dark, and we were young kids, and he let us take calls, and people were calling to ask for the hottest songs.
Yeah.
WKBO, this is Joe. And he let us do a lot of stuff. We sat there with him for 4 hours, and I just thought, man, this is the coolest job in the world, and you've done it for 41 years.
It's fun. I'm not gonna. I mean, my dad used to tell me when you ask me when I'm going to go get a real job,
right?
And trust me, I know how lucky I am to be doing what I've been doing for this long. Knock on wood. A lot of people don't get to do that in this business, so I'm just happy that they're still paying me.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth, and certainly you probably know me well enough by now that I'm just kind of saying this lighthearted and not too seriously. But isn't it cool to not have a real job? That you can wear Hawaiian shirts. Bill, come on, that you can wear Hawaiian shirts, that you can hang out with rock stars, that, like you said, on a daily basis, you can just sit there with John Wilsbach, who's probably great to work with. And kind of sit there and have fun with a friend of yours. Isn't that cool that after all these years you're still able to do that?
It still amazes me. I get paid to do that. Like I said, there's a lot of other stuff that goes on before I get on the air that is probably the crux of it.
It's work. Yeah, that's work. Yeah.
But the fact that that is a job that someone pays you to do I'm ecstatic that I get to do it.
Right. Bill, did you have a question?
In?
Yeah, certainly.
Well, yeah, I do. And I think we should reintroduce the show, and that we're talking to Hawaiian Chris James, 105.7, the afternoon guy and program director. This is Bill Bostic, along with the guy who actually owns and operates the show. I work for Joe Gilloway.
Why would you put it that way?
Because you are the owner. You hold all the stock. You have all the stock.
I don't think it has
nothing.
Any value, Bill.
Chris, I want to know.
I don't know. He's paying me a lot of money to be here tonight.
How much preparation do you have to do for a shift in the afternoon? I mean, you're doing it 5 days a week. I know when we do stuff, we have to prepare a little bit. So, I mean, how much work do you have to put in to get ready for a show?
I usually get into work about 8:30 or so, and by 10:30, I'm probably finished doing all the prep work that I have to do to get on the air that day. I go through 3 different sites that I use to get stuff ready, print it out, then kind of put it in the order I think I'm going to use it in, and 80% of the time it stays there. Otherwise, since the things change when you got to finally get in the studio, you'll move stuff around once you get in there too. But usually about 2 hour prep time.
Was there a time? Go ahead, Bill. I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask, what in simple terms, just a brief description, what does the program director actually do? Are you plotting what songs to play when, or what are you doing as a program director?
You're responsible for anything that goes over the air. So you're in charge of the jocks at the station. You're in charge of the music at the station. And these days, with the cutbacks, you're in charge basically of the how the station looks when it gets out. I mean, you're the nerve center that everything. Then you have great staff that you can use to come out of that and give them stuff to do too.
And how much time? I saw you on a promotional video walking through a parking lot a few days ago. How much time do you spend doing videos and that kind of thing?
That they would like you to do a lot more of that now, obviously, because people are so tuned into social media. That has a lot to do with it. And I mean, I'm not stupid. Every little bit helps. That you can get. The more you can get in front of people, the more they may come back and listen to you on the air too.
Yeah. Okay.
Was there a time, I don't know, maybe 25, 30 years ago that was Celestial Radio ever in trouble, or did you feel like, we got when satellite radio. When was that? You know.
Probably right around 90.
Okay, so
when it got really big, when Howard went to satellite.
God, it's been 35 years now. Wow.
Yeah,
Did you guys feel that? Did it like?
Everybody always asks that, and I always tell people when you were little and you would make cassette tapes, you didn't have to listen to the radio then because you made cassette tapes, and then the CDs came out so you could listen to the CDs in the car. You didn't have to listen to the radio. Radio survived. Satellite came out, and was there probably some attrition with people? Sure. I mean, it's something else to do, but people still want local traffic. They want local news. They want local sports.
Great points.
It's kind of fun to still have the local guy be the one to talk to you. So I mean, is it a lot less pieces of pie? There's more pieces of pie that go around now, but I don't think it'll ever go away.
That's a golf clap answer. I mean, you nailed that. That's true. And I would rather hear my local guy talking about, whatever you're talking about that day, and John Wilsbach, and do you still have a eye in the sky, or how do they do the traffic?
Well, there's cameras everywhere, and between Waze and cameras and everything, he doesn't need to be up in the sky as much at all anymore. Right. But yeah, you're right. I mean, people, they get used to. You can relate to them and talk about them and places they've been and stuff, where someone coming out of a satellite show can't do that. So it's neat to be able to always bring it back home and local.
Right.
Yeah.
Bill, do you have any more questions? I want to kind of wrap this up here. I'm going to give you a first shot there, Bill.
No, I think I blew all my good content with Tiny Tim and stuff like that. So,
boy, that was edgy, Bill. That's what doesn't qualify as edgy. Meeting Tiny Tim. Chris and I were on pins and needles, and when you said Tiny Tim, we were probably both a little let down.
He's kind of like Weird Al of that other generation.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just going to ask you kind of a canned question here, Chris. What does the future hold for Hawaiian Chris James? You still seem like you have a great attitude. You're fun. You're funny. You have the energy. It seems like. Any plans? You're just taking it a day at a time, a song at a time.
As I talked about this with a few of the other people in the building that are, they've been in the business for a long time. We all said we're just going to keep riding the wave as long as they let us ride the wave. We're going to ride the wave. Why would I want to do anything else right now? Plus, if I go home, there's going to be a honeydew list as long as my arms.
You don't want the honeydew list, no.
No. As long as I can keep going to work, I can put that behind me.
Well, you're phenomenal at what you do.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And I'm saying this because I mean it. You're an institution in Central PA. You are. I mean, you really are. And there was a time where I thought, man, I'd love to meet that dude, and then a couple other, of your cohorts, that I just think what you do, what you've done is cool as can be. And I admire you, and we really appreciate you coming on.
We'll have a beer at the Eagle one night, okay?
That'd be good. Bill lives right around the corner. I'm not too far, and we'd love to hang out with you.
Where do you live? Where do you live, Chris? What general area?
South Hanover Township, not too far up 39.
Yeah, that's not far.
We won't hold it against it. You're in South Hanover Township, but
we'll try to get. Will Wilsbach come out?
Yeah, he'd come out. Sure.
He's a busy guy, man. Holy crap!
That guy's got like 8 jobs.
Where does he find the time?
I have no idea.
And he's always in a good spirits, and you know what I mean. He's not like dragging his wagon or anything. He just does a lot, man.
I think there's 3 of them that live in that they all just interchange for the amount of stuff that he does.
Well, thank you, Chris. Hawaiian Chris James.
Thanks.
We're gonna get together and we'll meet at the Eagle some night.
You got it.
All right? We really appreciate it. Okay.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Yep. Have a good rest of your evening,
later.
sir.
You too.
Take care. Man, was that fun, Bill?
Yeah, it was a good interview.
Everything I hoped for and more with Hawaiian Chris James, and I mean that. I wasn't just stroking the guy. I'm 59, so I've been listening to him since he started, and I just think, man, that dude is cool, man. Wonder what it's like to be Hawaiian Chris James. So now we got a little glimpse of it tonight, right?
Yeah. Did you meet him before hooking up with him about this show?
I think we just on Facebook. We just became Facebook friends.
Okay.
And Bill, when you do this, what I do, as the owner of this,
Yeah.
you just kind of have to reach out to people, and that's what I
Well,
did. I just
I'm
reached out to them.
hoping, I'm hoping, Joe, that with the success of this show, with us being number one in Lower Paxton Township, that you
We're still
actually
number one.
franchise. Yeah, we're still number one. That you
Okay.
franchise it, and I can buy one of the franchises, one of the first ones you offer.
Okay. All right. I'll give you a
Yeah.
discount.
Okay. Thank you.
It would be this and that of Linglestown.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. So again, let's just briefly, and I mean when I say briefly, I mean briefly. Let's thank Rickabaz Electric, Team PA, AAU basketball, American Legion Post 272, and Be a Hero, Hire a Hero for their support of our show. We really, really appreciate that.
Yeah.
We got to a lot of the other stuff. We want to just jump right into fireworks, Bill.
Yeah. Sure.
And when I say jump into fireworks, we're talking specifically about the fireworks that are held at Coons Park annually,
Right.
on or right around July 4th, of course. And I think I'm going to mention too a little bit about the somewhat new laws concerning governing fireworks that
Sure.
don't really do much governing at all, is what I've found. But let's start with Coons. You've done some work on this. Maybe any of this reporting going to be edgy, or do you save that for Linglestown
No,
Gazette?
when it gets to be fireworks, I'm pretty darn serious.
Okay, all right,
Because
all right.
it's a serious business, and
It is.
anywhere because it's been an institution here in Linglestown. It started out. I don't know exactly the history and when it started it out, but it was a community event put on by Linglestown Volunteer Fire Company, Engine 35. And it was a way of saying thank you to the community. One of the ways they do that. They also have a Santa Claus run at Christmas time and things like that. So they're very conscious of letting the community know they appreciate the financial support and other things that they do.
That's
And
really cool.
And just a handful of years ago, probably two or 3 years ago, I'm not sure of the circumstances, but somehow Linglestown Volunteer Fire Company hooked up with the township, and they started to split the cost of the show. And then more recently, the Parks and Recreation Department at Lower Paxton Township had the idea, let's do something a little bit more than having people show up at 7:45 to 8:15 and park themselves over in the Coons Park, and then you watch the fireworks and you go home. So they introduced these food trucks to the mix, so that at least the last couple of years they've had food trucks, maybe the last 3 years, and it's become sort of the early part of the evening. That's sort of been the focus. When I was over there this year, I'm probably one of the only citizens that toured all of Coons Park, taking a look at what was going on. And if you look at Linglestown Gazette, edgy local news, you'll see a picture that I don't know how many food trucks they had, probably about 10. And they were all lined up, Joe. They were really long lines at every one of them. I mean, so that was really the focal point.
Now,
I'm doing this.
Do a portion of the proceeds go? I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'll
no
forget
problem.
though if we get off
No
the food
problem.
truck. Do a portion of the proceeds go towards the fire company or the township? Or
Good
how's that
question.
work?
I don't know how they set that up. I think that came out of the Parks and Recreation Department. I'm not sure
Okay.
how they have it.
Typically, you want everybody to kind of win there. Of course, you want the consumers, your guests there to enjoy the food and whatever else they're serving there. You want the food truck owners to make some money, and
Sure.
you'd like to get a portion of the profits to go towards whoever's footing the bill for the whole
Right.
show.
Yeah, I don't know how that works, but so that was the deal there. And so,
What do you think 12 or 15 minutes of fireworks cost? I've always wondered that.
Well, I think
it's got to be expensive.
I think the outlay is approximately $10,000 for the show.
Okay.
Because I think the township put out 5, and I believe that the fireworks, the volunteer fire company does a similar amount. So that's my guess, around 10,000.
Yeah. All right.
And the big difference the last 3 years is that the crowd has grown. And mostly it appears, this is not a scientific study, but it appears that it's young kids with no adult supervision. That seems to be where the growth is coming from. That's my observation. You didn't go to the show, so it's hard for you to have input.
No, I was planning on it. I thought I was going, and my grandson and his buddies ended up not wanting to go. I don't know why. Why, if you're 13, you wouldn't want to go to the fireworks? But even if
Yeah,
it's
but
for the girls,
the 2 years prior to this year, we started having problems with fights, different things happening, people getting in trouble, and I guess really it got bad last year. Whenever before the fireworks, um, I think some young people were throwing explosives at the horses that the police were the mounted police. I
that's
think that
bad.
yeah, that was. I actually had a friend who witnessed that happen. So it so this past year, if you haven't from following Lower Paxton Township, every year the township officials will review what happens at this show, and then they make adjustments if needed. And with all this disturbances with the youth, they started to have serious discussion at the township level, not so much with the fire company, but at the township level about should we move the fireworks show to someplace else. And the problem that the police have with Coons Park, and I talked to Public Safety Director Adam Koshiba today. He mentioned it again that Coons Park just has so many ways to get in and out of it. It's very difficult to control the perimeter of that park. It's very porous. You can
A
really
lot
get
of backyards.
yeah,
If they would close the main uh, roads down, thoroughfares down, you could still go in and out of people's backyards
yeah.
and stuff.
And so they were looking at George Park, which has some physical barriers. I think there's a swamp on one end and some brush and forest and all that in some sections. It would make it a little bit harder to get through. And long story short, there was a great outpouring of from the people in the Lingostown area who did not want to have that happen. There was some concern that George Park, which is just off Nye Road, has one entrance in, one entrance out primarily, and it would be very so. There were some problems with George Park, and ultimately the supervisors at the time decided to keep it at Lingostown. And in response, Joe, the police went to work planning, putting plans in place to really batten down the hatches as much as possible. And witnessing what happened pre-fireworks and just talking to many people through Facebook comments. I spent a heck of a lot of time on July 4th interacting with people on Facebook on Lincolnstown Gazette. You know, they really took the steps to try and batten things down. And I think in large part they were successful because we had 11 arrests.
11
And
plus there was an arrest that as a result of
a warrant or
a
something.
warrant. Yeah, so that was something that didn't occur that night, of course, if there was a warrant. So that person must have done something wrong that they had to probably kind of interrogate him and figure out that he had a
Right.
warrant. But
We were talking with Chris James before the show about how many arrests do you think happen at Hershey Park Stadium when they have a big concert? And that's a bigger crowd, but you figure in 30, 35 arrests. So it seems that 11 here in Lingostown with a sizable crowd, a lot of youth that are not supervised by an adult, that's a reasonable number.
it's a very reasonable number. The goal, I'm sure, is zero, but
Right. It's
yeah,
not going to happen.
no, it's not going to happen. And most of these arrests were from under 18. There was 4 of them that were kids, under
Right.
18, up to most of them were probably between 16 and 19. And then there was a man from Swedara Township, 61.
Yeah.
I mean, it's time to settle down a little bit, man. You go get yourself a turkey
Take
wrap,
take a
right?
sedative, would you
Yeah,
please?
go get yourself something to eat at the food truck and set up and watch the fireworks.
Hey,
61
Joe.
years old. Yeah.
Joe, you should get him on the show. We like to talk. What's the deal?
I'd want to. Well, it was trespassing.
I'm just kidding. I'm just
Yeah.
kidding.
He did. He
But,
trespassed.
Yeah, what they did, Joe, the people that got like disorderly conduct, things like that, not really sort of a, what do they call that? Summary offense, something low level.
Yeah,
They
it's a
they
summary.
took them over to anyone that was arrested. They got transported over to Lingelstown Fire Company, the new station, and they were processed there. If there was a summary arrest, just something that they just got out of line and they were arrested, they were issued a ticket at the fire station and they were let them go. The more serious ones, I didn't really get into that with Mr. Koshiba, but I mean, that also shows you the level of planning that went into this. You know, that they actually set up a separate place to take people who are arrested.
You
But
could put a jail anywhere. I mean, that wasn't a jail; it was a
no,
processing center. But
right.
yeah, now
But here's the
probably 2/3 of these were just summons. Sign
most
this
of them, I believe.
and
Yes,
go. A couple of them had a possession of firearms, aggravated assault, causing or risking a catastrophe, resisting arrest. That guy didn't just get out with a signature.
probably not.
I wouldn't think so. He was from Lancaster. We had of the arrests, three of them were from Lower Paxton Township, two from Swidara Township, two from Harrisburg City, one each from Steelton, York, Lancaster, and Mechanicsburg.
Yeah, it's an amazing reach that this event has. You know, bringing people in from beyond the immediate area. It's amazing.
Yeah, bad
And
guys will travel to break laws, Bill.
well, there's a couple of things I think people should know.
Okay.
There was, as you walked around, I was amazed at the number of police off foot patrol. I mean, there were police everywhere, and they had that park covered. Um, they had fire companies like Engine 35, Lingelstown was there, and I believe there was other firefighting operations here in Lower Paxton Township that were there with some of their apparatus and their men doing security type work. Um, there was a there was a command center. You know what a command center is? Okay, that
I know
we'll talk.
that's not the command center, but
I didn't have a picture of it, but the command center came in from Derry Township, and that's where they had drones in the air. So the pictures that were being taken by the drone were piped into the command center. Um, they let's see what, and then you saw the aerial truck there. That was manned by two members of the Dauphin County Crisis Response Team, and they were in military fatigues. They looked like, so right there. This is what these guys looked like. There was like four or five of them on the ground, two up in the air. Any number of undercover police officers were on the grounds, and with these guys that right here, the members of the Dauphin County Crisis Response Team. Those pictures.
CRT.
What's that?
CRT. It's also
Yeah,
known as CRT. I just want to act like I know what these
yeah. I mean,
acronyms. You know
that's
what I
an
mean?
amazing thing you're adding to the show here.
CRT. Yeah. Go ahead.
But these guys, I think, are responsible for Lingelstown Gazette almost Joe, bringing down the internet. There was 27,300 people viewed this picture. I mean, and it's
That's a
amazing.
lot.
That's a
Yeah,
lot of
that's a
I
lot
think
of
this is the
views.
one that really catches people's attention, that there was this kind of person, these kinds of public safety people brought in this high a level.
I don't
Uh,
think that most people are used to seeing something like
no,
that.
that's
And
for
at
some. Well,
it,
there's two reactions, Joe. Some thought it was great because they felt safe. Others, like me, I was like taken aback that we had people like this here.
I
And go ahead.
I wonder why it's necessary. Because I think that we're living in a climate where um, sometimes situations call for a little more extreme policing. Okay, I do know
Right,
that. I understand that. But we're also in a climate where a lot of kids are growing up. They fear police more than they used to. When you and I were younger, man,
right.
cops would give you a piece of gum, and they were showing up at baseball games. Just they were more kind of out there in the community. We want our youth, we want our children to trust and be able to build a relationship, even if it's not a close one, but kind of build a relationship with these law enforcement officers. I think they'd be scared crapless if they saw something like that. Kids,
Yeah,
I
I
think
don't.
they'd be much more apt to be intimidated and afraid of somebody like that. And what I wonder is, are the bad guys really deterred? I don't know if bad guys care what they're wearing. You know?
Well, this was definitely talking to Public Safety Director Kashiba. This is just one additional way they were trying to have a show of force because of everything that happened the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to know that if you're going to do something that's improper, illegal, or dangerous, they were ready to respond. Now, this particular gentleman here in the front, you see, if you take a look at the gun, it's not really a gun. What it is like it's like a form of a stun gun. Whatever that shoots out of this thing, it isn't lethal, but it sort of stops someone in their tracks. It's
Right.
that kind
Right.
of that's what I was told that is. And I think one of the things we haven't mentioned that uh, Public Safety Director Kashiba got into with me this afternoon when I talked to him is that their big concern in this day and age is that someone all it takes is one person with a weapon to do something and shoot it or whatever, and then we got a mess on our hands. So I
Right.
think this is a response to some of this kind of thing where you're trying to prevent anything like that happening. If it does, you have the firepower, the
I
appropriate.
understand that. I do. I really do
That's
understand that.
that's what their concern is, because you have a lot of people packed into this park, and actually, I'll tell you a story here that sort of gives you an idea what happens. Um, Coons Park has several sections to it. Um, I was on the western side of the park near North Mountain Road, sort of in the area of there's a convenience store in the area of the square on North Mountain Road, and also on Lingostown Road, the area where we have the funeral home. In that general area, there's a softball field, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
walking. I'm walking towards the tennis courts and the softball field and volleyball area. There was a big crowd of people in the parking lot next to the Salt Dome. There's there, if you picture that, and the
Mm-hmm.
garage and all that. There's a big crowd of people, and all of a sudden, I hear firecrackers going off, loud things right in the middle of that crowd. And next time I see waves of I saw mainly girls just running towards me into the softball field, trying to get the heck out of there. But I didn't see much activity from the police. And I asked Mr. Kushiba about that. And what had happened was they spotted a guy with the drones and those guys up in the bucket truck on the aerial, the ladder
Right.
truck, that had a backpack on. He was looking over his shoulder, doing suspicious things. They immediately locked in on him, and I guess they approached him. And in the midst of doing that, he lit up the firecrackers, and there actually was a couple people burned.
I'm
Not sure,
guess I'm
not
guessing that was Jeremiah Munez, 18 years old from Lancaster,
he was the guy.
arrested for aggravated assault, causing or risking catastrophe,
Yeah,
resisting arrest, and disorderly conduct.
yeah. The
That looks
police
like
were
the most extreme charge here,
yeah.
outside of that possession of a firearm.
So yeah, he took off, and they actually I think they had to eventually take the mounted police and you have the police, the horses gallop after him and got him before he got over to Balthaser in that area. He was running away. Yeah, I think they had at least four, maybe six of these mounted police. So that was probably the closest thing we had to a catastrophe. Like I said, unfortunately, a couple people were injured.
Do you want my opinion, Bill? Do
What's that?
you want my opinion on the
Sure.
whole, how it
Yep.
worked out? And
Yep.
I said this. You had a Facebook post like the day after, and I said this on the post, and I didn't know if people thought I was just being a wise guy or not. I said, not bad at all. Remember
Right.
that?
Right.
That's what I
I do.
think.
I responded. I give you a thumbs
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, I meant that. 11 arrests. You don't want guys like the guy throwing the fire. There was a couple that, but you know what? That's human nature. Like we said, with Hawaiian Chris James, how many arrests are at these concerts? Now there's going to be more people at a concert, but three
Right.
or four more times more. Anyway, I think that the police did a very good job.
Absolutely.
What I don't want is people to think, "Oh my gosh, 11 arrests!" Of course the goal's zero. you're never going to have zero. You wouldn't have had zero in 1950. You know what I mean? When things were a lot safer and a lot less violent and a lot less, somebody would have done something back then, 60, 70, 80 years ago, and been arrested, whether it was underage drinking or drag racing or
Right.
or whatever they did back then. So good job. Another golf clap for
Yeah, and then let me mention one other thing, because the one thing I picked up, and actually Mr. Kashiba didn't know about it, was that after the event, after the fireworks were over, last year they had some problems getting the youth out of the park. They actually had to use the horse, the mounted police officer, do different things to try and get them out of the park.
Who'd they have a hard time getting out?
The youth. What's the matter with youth?
You just use one word and just kind of like explain the whole thing. It was the youth. The youth.
I'm an old guy. I mean,
I don't know why I thought that was funny, but the youth.
Well, I don't know. Fortunately, Tiny Tim didn't show up. Okay.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Anyways,
Tiny Tim, he used to be like on Mike Douglas a lot. The Mike Douglas show.
He was on the Laugh-In. That's where he was.
Yeah, he was a regular on Laugh-In.
But
yeah.
They had some huge problems this time. There were so many people going down LaRue Street. It was startling. Some of the residents on LaRue Street. You had all these kids. They were pushing many of them down LaRue Street to North Mountain, because that's the most efficient way to get them out of there. Unfortunately, and this is what Mr. Kashiba didn't know, I was told by someone who I know is a good source of information that there was a fight in her front yard, and she went out and actually yelled at these kids and said, "Get the heck out of here, or I'm going to rip your head off," or something. I don't know what she said, but she was able to subdue the fight, and they moved on.
Did she have like a musket gun with her?
I think she just was. She was intimidating, and whatever she did,
wearing a muumuu with a musket gun.
Had a whip.
So anyway,
But I had a video that I found the next morning. There was a heck of a lot of I won't call them youth. I'll call them young people that were streaming through the square area and all that. It was quite a scene afterwards. Fortunately, there wasn't really any big problems, and somehow they hook up with their parents or whoever is transporting them. They were able to hook up with them somewhere somehow, and they exited the area. But yeah, I agree. I think listening to the township supervisors, especially Chairwoman Laura Kurtz, very complimentary of the police, very thankful they were there to keep things in order, and they certainly did. So I think my guess is they're ready to give it another go, because right now, Linglestown is the number one fireworks location in the immediate area, because Harrisburg City did away with their July 4th fireworks this year for the first time.
Did they really do away with them though, Bill? Did they really?
They did.
Let me ask you why.
The city show they did. They still have at the Senators. They still have them there.
I was told, and the reason I don't know for sure. There's a lot of stuff I don't know, Bill. But I was told that they were going to set them off over in Wormleysburg, which is
no, I don't think so.
They didn't do that. That was a rumor.
I don't know, but there was no Harrisburg.
Okay, all right. Because I was going to say, if they were just doing them in Wormleysburg, that may as well be Harrisburg,
Because last year, I guess they had a situation where someone threw a firecracker or something. People thought it was gunfire, and they had a bunch of people rush out of an area. One dude went through a tent that the mayor was in and knocked her over.
Yeah, so, that sounded scary.
Yeah, so that's what you're trying to prevent, that kind of thing, when you have a crowd reaction like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have wanted to be there for that. Even in my hooligan days, my young hooligan days, I still wouldn't have wanted. That sounded scary to be around.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say.
Hershey didn't have any, Bill?
They did on July 4th. We were July 3rd. They were July 4th.
Oh, so we were the only one that had it that night, is what you're saying.
And I couldn't have gone to the ones in Hershey because they started too late. I go to bed at 8:00, and they started theirs at 10.
Man, you go to bed.
That's not true.
Okay, listen, I got another trivia question for you.
Okay, let's
We could
go.
start and finish the show with a trivia question.
All right, what do you have?
You people at home, or yeah, viewers at home, you can respond in the comments. Where were the fireworks held before Coons Park in Lower Paxton Township?
For on July 4th,
Yes,
or just in general?
in July 4th.
Okay. I'm going to say Brightville Park.
No, that's a good guess. Close to Whiteville Park. Hills. The Hills parking lot
Where?
is Hills.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah,
It's
okay.
where Giant is now. We had a Hills,
Yeah,
and then
I
right
think.
across the street was a Kmart.
Yeah, I think that would have happened because that was all fields behind hills. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was all fields. There was a building. It might have been an AMP building or a Commonwealth of PA building where the hardware store is now, Home Depot.
Okay.
And then of course the Hills, and then there was a little that where that strip mall is. There was a Pappy's Pizza, but there was a lot of fields out that way.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
they probably would have set them off from one of those fields behind. But that's where everybody went and gathered. You know,
Well, let's finish off with this too. You were going to talk about illegal fireworks and
yeah.
your own experience. What's that all about?
People, man, they were not liking that I was complaining about illegal fireworks, Bill.
What
They
people
were,
on Facebook?
oh, yeah, I had a post and I was kind of complaining, and I was complaining.
You're
And they were
whining.
telling me that I was whining. Yeah, they were telling me, you're getting old and you're ratchety, and they were calling me all kinds of names and stuff. But what I think is that I'm not opposed to people doing it legally within
Yeah.
the guidelines of the law. But I want to read this, Bill.
Okay.
Lower Paxton Township prohibits the discharge of fireworks, after 11 p.m. on July 4th and after 10 on other days, okay?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Stick with me here. On any property of the township, meaning they couldn't do it at like a Brightville Park or something like that, including but not limited to streets, sidewalks, public parks, or public buildings, within 150 feet of an occupied structure. That's half a football field, okay? There's not a lot of areas around here that you could set something off that you're not within 150 feet. On private property without the express written permission of the owner, within or throw consumer fireworks or sparkling devices from a motor vehicle.
Okay.
That's a good law. I mean, you don't want to see that. And into or from is what I'm trying to say. You can't throw them into a motor vehicle or from a motor vehicle. And while the person is under the influence of alcohol. So let me tell you why I was complaining.
Well, Joe, before you go there, I think they have to get a permit too and actually pay for it. I think there's somewhere in that law where there's a permit required.
Each offense is punishable. Are you ready to laugh?
Okay.
It's punishable by a $100 fine.
Oh,
there's no deterrent there, So anyway, right around 9:00, these are like bombs going off. They're M80s. If anybody at home knows what an M80 is. You know what an M80 is?
Not really.
It's like a bomb. Like it sounds like, Started at 9:00, Bill. Went till 12:40. And it had to be right near my house because I can tell I used to be a detonator of M80s. Okay. So I know what they're all about. So somebody right near my house is blowing off M80s for 3 hours and 40 minutes, breaking every one of those laws.
Yeah.
Except they weren't throwing them in or from a car. But, people didn't like that I was complaining about it. They thought, grow up and, you're getting old and just deal with it and all that. It's very dangerous. Let me throw this up, Bill, while we're at it. Look at that. You know what that is, Bill? I don't think he'd mind.
What is it?
I don't think he'd mind if I name drop. Our friend Lloyd Hill, who we interviewed when we first started Lingelstown Gazette Sports.
Who was it?
Lloyd Hill. That's his garage.
Oh, Lloyd. Back.
Okay. Fireworks started his garage on fire. My neighbor, a number of years ago, a firework landed on his roof, started his roof on fire.
Yeah.
Okay. So
There's always reports of that across the
there's
state.
some inherent danger, not just to life and limb. Okay. Because it's to that too. I don't know how many digits were lost, fingers, arms, that just goes with the territory. But people's houses burned down from this stuff. So anyway, boy, I can't.
I had made a comment that, about that they changed the law so you can get more powerful fireworks now than you could before. And you remember the Paxton Herald, right?
Absolutely.
Okay,
and that Antone, right?
Right, and then before it went out of business, her sons were involved in it when her health was failing. I went in there because I was filing reports with them periodically before they closed. Maybe I'm the reason they closed. I'm not sure, but they were into pyrotechnics. Those two guys, but they had somewhere out in the country they did it. They were doing it the right way.
Right.
They were doing it safely, and they were telling me how dangerous these now legal fireworks are, that it's so easy to get injured.
Bill, that's the only reason I was complaining. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I got assassinated, man. They were not happy with me.
Yeah. And now we're like on some of these things, we're like, you say something, and I come back in and defend you a little bit or agree.
I defend you too. We defend one another.
It goes the other way too.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, we're going to be, they're going to come at both of us.
I was just thinking, if Annette Antone was still, that's her name, right? That was her name.
Annette Antone, yes.
She would be on This and That, the podcast, if she was still around.
Oh,
wouldn't that have been a great guest? We need more guests like Annette Antone. So I think that's it, Bill. I got a chance to complain about. She would have been great,
and I
wouldn't she have been a great guest? She was a pioneer, Bill.
I tell you what, I made so much fun.
Local.
She was a pioneer. I made so much fun of her with that column she had on the front page. It was like two old women talking back and forth. She was trying to relate it to current events, and her sons were saying, "Look, Mom, people don't understand that anymore. Why don't you stop that?" But she wouldn't.
She did a great job.
Every week I would make fun of it. In fact, one time,
go ahead.
One time I was doing this thing where I actually had a bra on. Depending if one lady was talking, I would like rub the bra, and the next person I would let it go. So I was doing outrageous things with her content. Bra. Yeah, it was a pink bra. There's actually, I saw it the other day somewhere.
That's way past edgy, Bill. That's weird. But listen, from a very young age, I was reading the Paxton Herald pretty much cover to cover.
Yeah, it was
if you needed a used car, a grill, a lawn chair, if you wanted to promote your chicken barbecue, there was just free. So much.
The ads were free.
Oh man, how did they do it, Bill? How did they do it? So anyway, all right, I think that's it. The most important thing, besides that we had a chance to meet Chris James and what a great guest he was, is that I got a chance to complain about the fireworks outside of my house. I wanted that opportunity.
See, this is why you own this podcast, because I'm weird. You can't be weird and own anything. So
I don't wear pink bras on the air. That's for sure. Oh man! All right. Well, listen.
We'll give someone a prize if they can dig up that video, because I tried to get rid of it.
Yeah, if you do dig it up, just please don't let me see it. So thank you to Hawaiian Chris James, another great guest. Man, we're getting good guests, Bill.
Yeah,
we really are. We really, really are.
That's why we're number one, Joe. That's why.
We're number one. Last week, Andrew Linker, and again we have Dr. Tamara Willis coming up next week. Julie Walker, You Do What? Just a lot of really cool stuff, and all this kind of like, if you put it all together and shake it up, and you take out all the guests and all the topics and categories, guess what it amounts to? This and that. It's this and that. It's the nature of why the show is called This and That, because it's all kinds of different topics and guests and people from all different backgrounds. And so anyway, there's my rant. I'm having fun, Bill. Good show. Yeah.
Yeah.
So good job by all the public safety people with the fireworks. Very well done. The first responders, which to me covers the police and the fire departments and whoever else was.
Mr. Koshiba was very open with me. He doesn't. Maybe he knows me from the work I do on Lingostown Gazette, Edgy Local News, but I couldn't ask, as a journalist, I couldn't ask for a better person just to tell me what in the world was going on. He was very open and honest, I thought.
Good.
So
he made himself available.
Yep.
Okay, good. All right. Well, let's once again, Rickabaz Electric, Team PA, AAU basketball, Be a Hero, Hire a Hero, and the American Legion Post 272. They are our sponsors. I want to play with this one more time. Look at that, Bill. Man. All you got to do, all you have to do, we use StreamYard. That's our streaming server. That's our podcast. All you have to go and do is go in there and fiddle around a little bit, Bill. Every now and then I go in there and I fiddle around and I find something new.
The next thing you have to do is introduce when we introduce ourselves. We have to have some music. They have music you can pipe in. I found that
they do, and it's not. Is it copywritten? What do they do with music?
No, you can use that music.
It's not. But I don't think copyright's the word for music. That's for
it's available to you to use. It's not.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. All right, Bill. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll see you tomorrow at 12:30 for coffee. Right.
Coffee, and I think I'm up for my quarterly review, so I'm hoping to get a raise maybe tomorrow.
All right. Well, you better keep hoping. I thought that was a every 6 month review.
No, quarterly. We're in a startup mode, so you really have to keep a finger on me. I'm a loose cannon. I'm a renegade.
I know. That's why you're here, buddy. That's why you're here. All right, so I will talk to you as soon as we get off the air. We're gonna talk.
Okay. Yes.
A wrap up or something like that. I don't know what it is. Okay. Thanks everybody for viewing. Bill, just so you know, we have a good number of views. I know I don't mean to drag this out, but I just want to let everybody know that we have had 145 views over the last hour and 15 minutes.
That's good.
That doesn't mean that they all viewed us from beginning to end or spent any significant time viewing us or the show. But that means that 145 different people have gone in at least for a few seconds or 10 minutes or maybe the whole show. And we really, really appreciate it. Right?
We do appreciate it. And if you see me out there, I'll gladly sign your autograph.
I'll
sign my autograph.
And he may have a fedora on.
Yes, that's my reporting mode.
All right, Bill, I'll talk to you in a few minutes. Thanks, everybody. Okay. Have a good evening.
Bye.